Another trial for Tommy Robinson. You would think they would have given it up, the prosecution of Tommy Robinson. I mean, you couldn't write it. Honestly, it's just disgusting. And the fact is that he has now got two more charges against him. I mean, really, as I correctly pointed out before, that Tommy Robinson did a mistrial. Hello from Texas. Hello, Texas. Hello, Frank. That Tommy Robinson had a mistrial, which is why it's going to the Old Bailey. Why it's going to the Old Bailey, your guess is as good as mine. And that I wouldn't be holding our breath for anything good coming out of this, because obviously the government's lost face. The judge looks like an idiot, pulling them into court in the way they did. It was just absolutely disgusting. I said that at the time, lacked any sort of judicial nuance, and just a complete out and out breach of the penal code. I mentioned this in another video. You can check this out. Hi there. Hi, how are you doing, Hank? You okay? And I mentioned this in the other live feed. And I told you that this was actually a disgrace. And the subsequent judge agreed with me that this was completely incorrect. It was an incorrect judicial process, and that Tommy Robinson indeed should be set free, and there should be a retrial. So there's a retrial tomorrow. This is the eve of the retrial at the Old Bailey. And I'm not going to be, unfortunately, going to go down, which I would have loved to go down and seen Tommy before he actually went into court and had a chat with him. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go down, as much as I would like to actually spoke to him, and also about what was happening with him in UKIP. And there's a lot of issues, and also I would love to talk to him about what happened to me in Dubai. Similar but different. I'll get onto that later on in this. So he's now going down to the Old Bailey. Now, the Old Bailey is for murderers and terrorists and the ultimate individuals, ultimate criminals. And what was Tommy Robinson's massive crime? To videotape a trial that had finished outside the Old Bailey, outside the court in Leeds, to actually speak with people who had already been tried. So the journalists have been doing this all the time for years, and they've not been receiving custodial sentences for it. They certainly haven't been put in prison where they might have been a threat to their life, and looks like deliberately put there by our Pakistani Muslim Home Secretary. So, I mean, obviously that has got a bearing on what is actually happening, because, believe me, there is no human rights in Islam. So, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So Tommy's going down tomorrow into this. Two new charges have been made just for good measure. If Tommy had apologised to the state for being a naughty boy, that he could have probably walked free. Like the fantastic Count Dankula, who was amazing at the UKIP conference. He did a great interview with Junaya. You'll always try and get that pronunciations correct. Janaya. And she's a fantastic YouTuber herself. And did a great job speaking down at the UKIP conference. What a lovely fellow, as I mentioned and spoke to him before, he is. What a great guy, and becoming a right little political component. He's becoming, actually, he is potentially, along with Jerry Baton, collectively responsible for the revival of UKIP. So an absolutely fantastic job by Count Dank. He's doing a great job. Same with Carol Benjamin. I was disappointed. I'd love to see Paul Joseph Watson and Milo there as well. I think that would have been absolutely amazing. I think if that happens in the future and Carol's there and the guys are all there, UKIP is going to be an amazing place to go for just hanging about. I think I'm really looking forward. I think I'm going to join. Don't know about joining the Conservatives. I think we're going to get the same old with the Tories. And look at Labour. Labour is now potentially going to call for a second referendum, sticking two fingers up to the people in North England who all voted Labour and voted Brexit. They don't care about you, ladies and gents. You will have to, if you're going to want people who are supporting the British working class, join UKIP. And because old Steptoe is potentially going to allow a second referendum, and basically sticking two fingers up to all you guys in the north of England who I love dearly. So I think it's going to be a change in the north of England, whether they're going to stick with the... I mean, I was listening to... It was more like a comedy show, the Labour Party conference than anything serious in politics. I kept laughing. They're talking about getting Scotland back. Well, you've not offered Scotland anything. There's nothing attractive in what you're proposing to the Scots in the slightest. Same old lies, same old taking Scotland for granted by the Labour Party. And we've got Corbyn, who is mental. I mean, he is literally a lunatic. We've got four absolute lunatics in potentially the highest offices of state. MacDonald, who is a self-quoted Marxist, when Marx has murdered more people throughout the world than any other ideology, including National Socialism. We've got Jeremy Corbyn, who hasn't run anything, and you really wouldn't employ him. We've got Diane Abbott, who is a racist, an anti-white racist, who's basically got a racist council who basically ethnically cleansed her borough of actual white people. And they want to have more and more immigration here. And I mean, honestly, in Thornbury, I mean, as the Home Secretary, oh my goodness, yeah, I mean, it's like getting the village idiots and getting them in the highest offices in the land. And to clap it all off, in their Munich Beer Festival, Abbott was crying in an interview the other day. Oh, was it? Oh, the emotional stuff. Oh, that's good. That's what I want. Emotional politicians. Oh, no, what's going to happen? It's really bad. That's great. I want people who are logical and who can implement good policy, none of which can be afforded to the Labour Party at present. But let's go back to Tommy. So Tommy's political trial, because that's all it is, 13 months for live streaming not on court property is a political trial. They've added two more ridiculous charges. I mean, I don't know where they're pulling these. I think they're making up these charges as they go along. And there's a good chance that because it's the state that's doing it, that the state is going to try and screw him over. And it's going to be a shame for him and his family. He's done very well so far, very brave, and it just shows you what a bunch of scumbags we have in political office just now. They use a political office to actually try and smash the little guy. So it's not looking. I don't know if it's looking good for him. I wish I could say something positive. Hopefully, the judge sees sense, because I don't. Hopefully, the judge sees sense, because I don't think this is actually with a jury either, which means that the judge is dictating what will actually happen to Tommy tomorrow as well. So the state's trying to screw him over. There's nothing. He shouldn't even been in court. I've said this before, for doing what he did. The fact that our government has allowed the mass molestation of children by Pakistani Muslim gangs throughout the UK. And because of their failed policies on immigration, and they want to continue, even the Conservatives, the Liberal Con Party, exactly the same, want to continue this. They're prepared to sacrifice the children who are being abused throughout the UK. So that is very bad for Tommy. I'm hoping that Tommy will actually be okay tomorrow. As I said, I wish I had gone down and actually seen him. We know this is a political stitch-up, but as Tommy's, I've seen him in the podcast speaking about it himself. He has actually said that this is basically a political stitch-up. And I think he's completely correct. This is just politics. This is because of our failed political classes' daft ideas, and our political class is actually failing the British people. So, and because Tommy has highlighted in this, this is one section of it, I'm going to highlight in other sections, but because Tommy has highlighted it in this section about the grooming gangs that are happening all over the UK and the failure of the political class to actually identify it or even acknowledge it, it's better to actually then affect Tommy's life rather than us to actually address the underlying fact which has happened all over the UK. And I would notice that there's no anti-racist organisation that's happening through the Labour Party about what's happening in South Africa and the racial discrimination that's actually happening against white people, because Marxism, and you should go on to YouTube and actually put in Marx and genocide. There's an 8.5 minute or nearly 9 minute video about the origins of Marxism and the fact that Friedrich Engels was the first person to advocate genocide against the European people. So that's why filthy socialists are not bothered about ethnically cleansing. They call it diversity now, but ethnically cleansing our own population. That's what they do. But they've just changed the name because they couldn't say we're actually committing genocide on you. Which obviously we've seen the diversity barriers outside our own parliament now, which is fantastic. Obviously diversity is working so well. I mean, it's great. If it's not the mass rapes, it's the diversity barriers and people try to run down people outside the British Parliament because of our assholes who we've got as a political class. So Tommy looks like he's going to be well and truly screwed over potentially tomorrow. He struggled to get a lawyer. When I came back from Dubai, Anis Anwar, Lee Day, Anis Anwar is a Scottish human rights lawyer who refused to represent me. Obviously been held in a Muslim country for 2 years without a legal ability to work or leave the country, when the scumbags in the British government and the UAE embassy, probably too busy drinking champagne and living in the big houses to worry about the little guy. I was abandoned for 2 years. They knew I was in Dubai for 2 years. They knew that I wasn't legally allowed to work, and yet the British government did nothing. So there's a jihadi bomber in Guantanamo Bay. He's a jihadi bomber. He should have been in Guantanamo Bay. He was given £1 million. Lee Day represented this jihadi bomber. Lee Day represented the jihadi bomber, and he got £1 million from actually going out and killing people, basically. So he was arrested, put in Guantanamo Bay, given £1 million by the British state, represented by Lee Day. So we're representing terrorists, our legal system or our lawyers are representing terrorists, who then subsequently went to Syria and blew himself up, killing innocent people. Yet I, as a British citizen, can't get a lawyer to sue the British government because of leaving. So my human rights in a Muslim country doesn't matter. They can just do what they want, but no legal firm will actually represent me. Obviously, there's a case there because spending 2 years starving on the streets, there's a definite case there. So, and yet I cannot actually get any legal representation. And Tommy Robinson said he was struggling to get legal representation because no lawyer was actually wanting to actually represent them. So let me tell you a few legal stories about me. So I used to stay in a place called Bothwell. I was there for about 4 years in a council house. I had the right to buy within 10 months. I had 2 floods. I had gone to the local council and explained that there was floods in the house. I'm going to move out until the floods had settled down, burst pipes. I explained them, given them a phone number, given them a way of contacting me. And there was a problem by the back door. The back door needed replaced. They didn't phone me. They sent me a letter to the address, and then they cancelled my tenancy after being a tenant for 4 and a bit years. They cancelled my tenancy, stole all my furniture, emptied the room without even telling me, although they knew that I had actually given them my phone number and told them what had actually happened within the property. I went to a lawyers called Livingston Brown. Oh, sorry, I went to another one up in Partick, a lawyers first of all, and they didn't do anything. They kept saying, what do you want to do? Well, what I wanted them to do was take the South Lanarkshire to court. So they didn't do anything. I went and got another lawyers called Livingston Brown, and they didn't do anything either. So I could not get the South Lanarkshire Council into court because the lawyers refused to actually take the case. Now, it was in the documentation that I had gone in and told them that I wasn't staying in, the reasons behind it. So it was to me, it was a slam dunk case. But because I cannot get the South Lanarkshire in because of the refusal, and also this thing called time barring. Time barring is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. If somebody is guilty of a crime, there should be no time barring on it. I don't agree with time barring. If you are guilty of a crime, you should go to jail. So you should go to jail if you are guilty of the crime. So, you should actually be able to be prosecuted. There shouldn't be time barring on, especially not civil cases. Maybe, well, I don't think maybe even criminal cases as well. But criminal cases, you would have to take into consideration what was acceptable at the day, not what's acceptable now, because obviously things in crimes or prosecutions of crimes change. So it would have to be what was actually happened at the day, rather than actually what's actually happening today. So, but certainly in civil cases, I mean, this case could still be prosecuted today. The documentation is still there, and I'm being denied access to the law because of the failure of the legal system to actually get a lawyer to represent me. So they keep then referring me back to the Law Society in Scotland, and then the Law Society in Scotland have got a list of lawyers who are meant to do work within this field. And yet, they say how can you get legal legal aid, which means your legal costs are paid for. So they've got a list of people who've got legal aid. So when you actually go down the list, the people that they say that have got legal aid don't actually do legal aid services, and a lot of them that's in the Law Society in Scotland don't even actually work in the field of law, which they're actually quoted on the Law Society. I mean, it's the most embarrassing. It's the most embarrassing setup I've ever seen in my whole entire life. And so when I was actually had the case in Dubai, I had actually contacted Law Society in England as well. So what the Law Society in England, it was like Lucky Dip Law Society in England. So what they do is they give you 3 arbitrary legal firms. So one of the legal firms was a solicitor that did corporate law. And I said, why are you giving me a solicitor that does corporate law when it's a civil matter? I'm trying to sue the government because of the fact that they have basically breached in a Muslim country. And there was no sort of answer from that. I mean, they're just unaccountable. I mean, this is a whole unaccountable bunch that we don't have any reins over, who are allowing people who have been charged with the most serious crimes, who have emigrated here, to remain in the country. And yet, so they're basically acting as our immigration department, the legal service, which I don't remember voting for any judge, so that they could actually decide who is actually allowed to come into the country and who's not. And would I want somebody who's committed a serious crime and who's a foreigner to remain in this country? I certainly wouldn't. So, I mean, it's just really disgusting. And I mean, there's Tommy Robinson highlighting this and some of the, I mean, we're already seeing the major failures in our judicial system. I mean, that was disgusting that Tommy Robinson has spent 2 months in jail over that, where he should never have been in jail. That's a deliberate political crime. And the fact that Muslims were actually giving them death threats and nothing was happening with the Muslims who were given the death threats by our prison service. I mean, and yet Tommy was getting persecuted in the actual prison service for what he said. So obviously the hypocrisy here is just absolutely staggering. It's just absolutely disgusting. So here's another little ditty about the Scottish legal service. So I had Dixon's had not repaired. It was under warranty and had not repaired my laptop, and I took them to court. The Glasgow Sheriff Court firstly sent me to the wrong courtroom on the day of the trial, and so I was late for the trial. It was postponed and rescheduled. Then, even though I've got proof that I actually had sent in emails of a change of address, Glasgow Sheriff Court continued to send the letters to the wrong address. So I wasn't notified again by Glasgow Sheriff Court. And so they told me the day before. So they told me to be there at 10 o'clock. So I was there at 10 o'clock, went through security 10:05, and they said that the case had been tried and finished by the time I went through security, and they told me that orally. Now, that's just part of it. So it's practically impossible. So if I'm getting denied legal access through a lawyer, so if I have no access to a lawyer, there are other firms like you can go to the Glasgow Governing Law Centre, or there's student things in Glasgow and Edinburgh where students then have the right, or can then help you, maybe law students can then help you with legal problems. But these don't cover all of the legal problems. So for the average Joe, there's very little chance. If you're getting denied access to the law by the lawyers, then you've got very little chance of individually bringing a case. For instance, there's no law library, as far as I'm aware, in Scotland, which is open to the public, that would actually help, and for me as an individual, rather than actually having to get a lawyer if I'm being denied access to the law, as a lawyer, to bring a case myself. And even if I do, the law's been made so complex, which it doesn't really need to be made so complex, that it's practically impossible to actually bring the lawsuit. And even if you get it there, you would have to have a law degree to actually probably successfully prosecute it. So my thoughts are that we should simplify it, maybe have a Judge Judy type legal system where it would make it much easier to bring legal cases, and it'll be much easier done, depending on what it is that we are actually trying to do. So I think that would be much easier. We don't have to have all these lawyers involved and them denying it, and it's like the legal merry-go-round to actually try and get a lawyer who's prepared to get off their ass and actually represent you. I mean, I'm absolutely staggered now. 2 years starving on the streets in Dubai without any help from the government, while at the same time they're funding jihadi terrorists. If that's not something disgusting, and that's part of the globalist agenda as well. So, Tommy Robinson tomorrow, what an absolute debacle. I feel very sorry for him in this instance, because obviously this is just a pure political setup. This is nothing more, nothing less than a political setup, a political stitch-up. And I wish I was down to actually report on it tomorrow, but I'm not going to be there, so I thought I would just actually speak about this. We need an overhaul of our judicial system. If the judge is going to act as the arbiter for our immigration policy, he has to be elected. There's no other way that you can actually do that. If I'm not happy with a judge, I don't have any recourse. So if he's letting dangerous criminals stay in this country, then there's a problem there. Guerilla DeVille as well. I mean, there's another debacle. A Remainer putting forward a bad set of ideas for the Commission. What we should be doing is leaving the EU and actually offering zero tariffs to trade with the EU. That should be our objective. That's the deal that we should be offering. So we should be leaving and zero tariffs on trade. That's what should be happening. There's all the Gina Miller globalist scumbags at the Labour Party conference with their anti-Semitic views, and it was disgusting, waving the Palestinian flag. There's issues for the poor Palestinians. I'm certainly not anti the plight of the Palestinians, but it just culminates in the anti-Semitism and the sort of neo-Nazi Nuremberg conference that they had down there, waving the Palestinian flags. It's more to do with anti-Semitism. And what they basically want to do is steal your money so Steptoe can play the fat controller and steal your money and buy water and the railway back and put it in public hands. What a waste of time and money. I mean, I don't want the renationalised. I don't care. Especially when it comes to railway, there's already the tube that's getting developed in America, which could get us from London to Glasgow faster than it could do flying. So the new development, rail development that's getting developed in California could actually revolutionise rail. It could revolutionise transport as a whole. So I don't want to waste time, and that's a private company that's developing that. I don't really want, or I'm not really bothered about rail or water being in private hands. It's no skin off my nose. And the fact is that these the thing that will impact me is the fact that people want to steal through taxation more and more of my money through taxation. That's what they do. Taxation is theft. But that's why Jeremy is so keen on socialism, because it benefits idiots like the guys who you would never employ to do anything, who are now the head of the Labour Party, and they benefit from the socialist agenda that is actually happening at the Labour conference. It's not us that benefit. They want to steal more of our money and make us more beholden to the state, which I don't want. I'm not interested in that. I've not got any interest in that. I will never vote for Labour again anyway. They're a busted flush. I mean, they want to turn Britain into Venezuela. So they're a completely busted flush. But I'll round it up. I'll just make this slightly shorter. But there's major problems in our judicial system. We need an overhaul of the judicial system. We need them easier. If lawyers are not prepared to represent the individual, we need to make it easier for the individual to get some sort of justice. Because this system's not working. It's only benefiting those that are in it. There's no accountability for the judges, so I think there has to be public accountability, and we should be potentially directly electing judges to see if they're making good or bad decisions, like that idiot that was the judge in charge of Count Dankula's trial. What a twat. But this is coming from a political class as well, so don't forget, let's try and kick them all out. Let's try and get new guys in, and that'll get new ideas, and we might have a better society. Because these guys have been in for far too long, and we've just compulsion. It's like an addiction that we've become used to voting for Labour, Liberals and Conservatives. And what happens is the media protects these groups, and rather than actually bringing in new, fresh political ideas, and there's nothing fresh about Steptoe and old McDonald's political aspirations. They're tried and tested, failed Marxism, and we already know what happened in Venezuela with these twats over there, and the Venezuelan president eating a big steak while these actual people are scurrying around in bins trying to actually make ends meet. And we've got Steptoe and Corbyn staying in big houses down in London, not doing anything they say other than living off other people's tax money and telling us that we need to pay more taxes as if we don't pay enough. What we should be doing is cutting taxes and cutting regulation in our industry and investing in our entrepreneurs. That's what we should be doing, like President Trump's done. Look at what's happening in America. New highs in the Dow Jones. Highest number of startups, 800,000 new startups now in America. The place is booming. Lowest number of black unemployed, lowest number of women unemployed, lowest number of Hispanics unemployed. And that's how you actually start to, in America, get up the ladder as well. I know as well because obviously my family came from a working class background, and my mum and my grandparents sent my mum to a private school, and that's how they actually got up the ladder. And I was the first person in my direct family to qualify as with a degree. Went into profession. My mum became a teacher. She got a diploma, but it was thanks to her parents that we actually started to be a wee bit more mobile up the ladder. But I'll come back to what's happened with my qualifications at a later date. I'm going to start editing as well, so these will be much more polished. I've loved just doing these rough ones over the last period of time, but everything's going to be more polished. We're going to get proper cameras. I'm just doing this off my phone. Proper cameras, proper editing, and that'll happen over the next maybe year or so. And I'm really looking forward to it because I'll really go into detail and I'll dissect it. A lot of these are just off the top of my head just now. So we're really looking to get into detail, and I'll start to cut it up and interject actual things that we're actually talking about so that I'll give you primary proof that what I'm talking about is correct. So we've got two Marxists now talking absolute nonsense. Nothing about Scotland was attractive in anything they said. There's nothing appealing to me as a Scotsman to make me vote for them. Rubbish, absolute rubbish. I personally think that Nicola Sturgeon's got major limitations, but I'd be sticking to the SNP. And Ruth Davis got limitations. They've all got limitations. I think we need new political ideas, and I am just the man to do it. So we are now going to be seeing and waiting and hoping that nothing happens to Tommy. And it's just persecution. It's just political persecution because the state doesn't like them. They're too busy ethnically cleansing parts of the UK. So that's it. We are our political class persecutes people, their own people in the UK, because we have scumbags, self-serving scumbags for a political class. So I've just been banned again on Facebook. I think I'm going to go check out, I've already checked out minds.com, minds.com. Zuckerberg, I was having a look at, I was having a look at Zuckerberg's in the social media, where he was, he basically stolen the idea from those two athletes, those two twins, or the set of twins, should I say, that he actually stole Facebook from these guys, and they successfully won only 65 million when it's worth billions. For me, that's just absolute theft. He should have to give up Facebook and actually give it to them. That's what he should have to. She should have to do. As far as I'm concerned, the theft of an idea is just like somebody breaking in and stealing your TV. So I think I'm going to go to Minds anyway. I'm getting bored with Facebook anyway. It's boring. It's getting the hate speech. Hate speech just an inability to stop anybody who Zuckerberg doesn't like actually talking on the platform. I don't want to do that. And also, Minds.com is an open blockchain type of facility. He looks like he backs freedom of speech, whereas I know Zuckerberg doesn't do. But might just set up my own social media site and actually develop it that way. So you never know. You never know how it's going to pan out. But and I've definitely left Twitter. I will not be on Twitter again. I'm going to take off all my companies. I've taken off LinkedIn, off any of my companies' literature and anything to do with LinkedIn. I think I'll be taking off Twitter as well, off all my companies' information as well. So, and Facebook might go as well. So, I have to change it until I'm actually comfortable and confident with the people who are actually got my information. I'm certainly not with these assholes in Silicon Valley. So that's about it. Good luck, Tommy, tomorrow. We're all rooting for you. I hope the lawyers do a good job. He shouldn't be there in the first place. It's disgusting that he's there, just making up charges, completely politically motivated, and it's coming for Theresa May because she's the only person with the power to do it. So disgusting. And it's good to see what a great conference UKIP had. Oh, they're getting so good. I mean, really, from between Nigel and Nigel's amazing. Nigel's probably one of the greatest politicians of our generation, but he's wrong on the issues with Islam. And actual Jerry Baton is correct. And Tommy's correct. I've stayed in the Middle East. I've read the Quran. I know what it says. It's a very bad book. Anybody who thinks that that's acceptable or a good way to live their life must be on the glue. It's misogynistic. It talks about sex slaves. Muhammad was having sex with a 9-year-old child. It talks about murdering Jews. It's very anti-Semitic. It's very misogynistic. Multiple marrying to rape non-Muslims is acceptable, and which is happening in the UK. So Jerry Baton is correct, and so is Tommy Robson, and so is Avi Yemeni. And Nigel is not up to speed on this issue. It's a disgusting book, and I read it in Dubai when it was given it by a Muslim. And I actually couldn't believe what it says. I mean, I'm an atheist, and it repeatedly tells members of the child rapist death cult to murder non-believers. So, I mean, I don't want people like that in my country. And I want to see who's coming into my country. It's not the people who just want open borders country. This is our country. We all should have a say about who is and who is not coming in. Like a referendum. Let's have a referendum, and should we be deporting illegal immigrants? And it's our country. It's not the elitists. Anyway, I think that's it. Good luck, Tommy. I'll be thinking about you. Well, thanks very much, buddy. Thanks, Tim. I'll be thinking about you. And tomorrow, I wish I had come down and actually seen you. And if you're in, I'll be at the protest to make sure we keep the pressure on the establishment who have put you in jail in the first place. So we may have to take out prosecutions against the Home Secretary for putting his life in danger, which will be quite funny to put out a Muslim, Pakistani Muslim Home Secretary about Pakistani Muslims trying to murder a British guy in jail because they believe in killing infidels. And there's no human rights in Islam. Trust me, there's no human rights in Islam. And it affects Muslims as well. I mean, if you were a gay Muslim, that you'd be affected in an Islamic country. If you were a woman, you'd be adversely affected in an Islamic country. You might get Stockholm syndrome, which is probably what happened to the Swedes in Sweden. I see they've kicked out that asshole who was the leader of Sweden. What a diddy he is. Thank God he's gone. Social Democrat as well. Left have got a lot to answer for. So we're hoping that Tommy gets out. I'm very hopeful that he doesn't get the death threats and all that. We may have to crowdfund legal prosecution of the Home Secretary to actually make sure that nothing actually happens to him. Because obviously it was Javid that had actually put him in the mainly Muslim prison where shit was getting posted through his door. He was getting death threats and threats against his family and his wife getting raped and acid put in her face and disgusting things like that. And Javid let it happen. What a fucking scumbag. So that's and as I said, the Foreign Office allowed me to starve on the streets in Dubai for 2 years. So I've got absolutely no respect and very little respect for the scumbags in the Conservative Party, because this happened under the Tories. So I think that's why we'll all be joining UKIP. So yeah, that's basically it, guys. Good luck, Tommy. I'll be thinking about you tomorrow, buddy. I wish it was down. I hope some of the Liberalists are going down. And I'll speak to all my baby gorillas another day. It's good actually having a wee chat and getting that off my chest. But we need a reform in our judicial system, and that should be a priority for UKIP as well. Great conference by UKIP, much better than the scumbags at the Labour Party. And that's it. Good night.